After stumbling on the brand new Honkai Star Goddess Epic of Savior 7, you are probably overwhelmed with information and have no idea what you are doing wrong. The top players are either from KRJP or they spend a ridiculous amount of money, sometimes maybe both. You want to try learning this game but you have no idea where to start or what you are doing wrong because to put it directly, you don't know what you don't know. So far, there has been a very big lack of information in the global scene where most if not all of the guides has been either directly from KR or JP players back on day 1 of release, or there simply isn't enough global players with enough understanding of the game considering it has been only out for 5 months ever since back its launch in November. Well, that ends today. Hey guys, MrPokke here, and after clogging in for more than 1 month with the JP server being pretty much the top ranks for both PvE and PvP content, playing every single day on global with almost 200 hours on Steam alone, I have pretty much compiled the most common questions and mistakes you will likely have made and will probably keep making going forward unless you change something. The truth is, while Starsavior as a game has an insane amount of pools and new knowledge for you to slowly explore and figure out for yourselves, there are a ton of account-breaking things that if you are unaware, you can literally waste weeks if not even months of progression by simply not fixing them. With this video, I hope to reduce the amount of detours and show you a shortcut to making a better account going forward, whether or not you're going to be a free-to-play or spending player. So without further ado, let's get into the content today. And also, if you do find this useful or you want a new Starsavior community, feel free to subscribe, join my streams, join my Discord and ask anything and I'll try to answer all of them because this game has been absolute cinema. So the very first mistake that you probably are still making is pretty much skipping out on the free items, because I was very surprised when I found on stream that there is an alarming amount of people that have no idea how the event tab even works, with some not even claiming their daily login freebies like the tier 1 and tier 2 gear boxes, materials, pools, because they simply did not know where to claim those. In particular, Paths in Edge Starlight is going to be an event shop that has every single past event from KR and JP condensed into one. And they have a ton of resources, so please remember to claim the event missions and buy out the entire shop, which is easily doable. I will focus on progression materials always, followed by pools if you want a faster level, or you can do pools or progression if you need a little bit more units. Also, as of this time of recording, Rosaria is going to be coming, I believe, this Thursday, so that is definitely going to be giving us a new event. So when a new event comes out with the new event shop, be sure to claim everything possible within this current event so that you can just buy as many of these items as possible. Now, the second mistake is going to be wasting gold. Starsavior's true bottleneck in the early game is not going to be your operation reports or your starlight essence, but it is going to be your gold. You use gold for everything between leveling your gears, crafting materials, leveling arcanas, leveling on units. So wasting them on things like buying daily shop items, upgrading bad gears, and leveling unnecessary arcanas are all incredibly wasteful and can set you back quite far when you need gold for everything as of this current point of time. Remember those boxes that you get for 1 hour on the 3 resources? Now, except for those 2x redemptions, always choose gold. Specifically on gold, do not level your gears beyond +6 for tier 1 gold gears unless they have perfect substats with the right main set on your necklace and ring, in which I will then raise them to no more than +12. Relic EXP and gold, they are both incredibly hard to get, so only use them sparingly at the start to get the best results. And on that note, if you are going to be feeding away your Relic EXP, you only get back a 50% refund from this game, so any wasted Relic EXPs is going to lead to a pretty considerable loss of stamina, because later on by the actual endgame, the true bottleneck is pretty much going to be your gears, and because we don't really have enough Relic EXP for leveling all of our different gears, having these Relic EXP wastage indirectly related to gold is going to be very wasteful. The next mistake is pretty much going to be leveling your wrong arcanas, specifically your SR arcanas. You don't need to level arcanas they are not going to be using, especially for SSRs, but this is particularly even for SR arcanas when you do not even have a roster of SSR deck. This is kind of tied to the previous point, but your SR arcanas in this game, they are very temporary and they will pretty much serve no value once you have a full deck of SSRs unless you want to do some parents farming for specific arcanas. And because this game gives you an absolutely obscene amount of pools, you can get yourself a full deck of SSR cards relatively easily. unlike units, you cannot reset your arcana levels, so please do not level your SR arcanas, and if you do want to use them for purely just going to be a passive skills, just use them at level 1 for your early game. Now there are two things to note over here, and number one being there is actually this passive based on the arcana's level if you simply take a look into your technical analysis, but for pretty much all players except for Wills, just ignore this as it takes an insane amount of gold and lunar elixir, so only level the SSRs you are going to be actively using. Do not get baited into leveling your arcanas simply just for this passive. It is way too expensive. Also, there are some SSR arcanas that you might want to intentionally not bring to level 35, namely your effect hit rate as well as effect rest, because they have been noted to have an increased sensory training chance, meaning there is a higher chance that these cards are going to go to either effect hit rate or effect rest training instead of sticking to STR, vitality as well as endurance. Check out our journey guide for more on why you generally do not do hit or rest training. Now moving on to the next mistake, and that's going to be pooling way too little. Yes, saving pools in this game, especially at the start, will actively set you back instead of helping you push forward. This is not a mainstream gacha game where as all units are viable, right? You can use a 4-star Ting Yun, 4-star clear, because this is way more comparable to games like Nikkei, where every single unit relies on using SSRs, and without them, you basically do not have a team. The game gives out more than 1,000 pools on launch over time for a reason. Use them if you are still stuck with a poor team due to not having enough choices to make a good team in the first place. There's already a cosmic selector for Lacey, as well as multiple free SSRs you get over time like Frey and Roberta, which can both be very useful. So pool more, especially for standard pools, and try to make a team around Lacey to have a much better starting experience. One thing to note is that your observation records or your PD points can in fact carry forward unlike Uma Musume, so a good choice is to spend your rate up pools on RGB banners or Arcana banners like the current Hell Day or the Welt's Ashura rate up Arcana banner, and then redeem those 200 points for a cosmic unit like Welt's Ashura or Rosaria, as the RGB as well as Arcana is always going to be 2% rate up versus 1% for cosmic banners, which means that you're going to be saving a lot more pools statistically speaking. Now moving on to the next mistake, and that is going to be hoarding resources. So on a very similar note to hoarding your pools, it is ironically counterintuitive to hoard your 1 hour material boxes and your tier 1 gold gears as well as anything that the game is going to give you to progress. They are meant to haste-start your progression, not for you to hoard until an anniversary event, because so far there has never been a 2x spending event for stamina, for gold, etc. Use them at any point of the time you're going to be stuck in your sector progression, level your units and skills as much as you can, and then continue pushing so you have a higher AFK income. This is especially important for tier 1 gold gear boxes. Do not hoard them as they provide a substantial CP boost at the early game, and you'll eventually unlock tier 2 gears around chapter 14 as well as tier 2 gold gear boxes when you progress. So just use them for your main team right now to see a much better performance if you're still stuck with using tier 1 purple gears. For a start, focus on 4-piece crit rate for your DPS sets and 4-piece HP for tanks and sustain, the 2-piece being your Valor as well as Barrier. Speed set generally is not very useful at tier 1 because they are mainly PvP gears, and by the time you play PvP, you are definitely going to be playing with tier 2 gears. The next mistake is going to be wasting your skill and resonance materials. So on the flip side to hoarding, there is a very important thing, which is the cubes used for your skills as well as the cores as well as various resonance materials to upgrade your resonance. Specifically for cubes, these items are very rare despite having an abundance of them in the early game due to multiple event shops and in-game items giving you the early game boost. But please do not waste them and only invest in units that you're going to be using for now instead of investing in, for example, PvP units. While this game has a reset button for units, it only resets the levels and not the skill and resonance. This might be shocking when you expect to full refund everything invested, so decide on a unit you want to use selectively and only focus on a core team, especially for your early PvE progression. The reset function level is more so to make use of the synchronization system and get 4 main units to level 200 together with dupes. It is not for you to test different units and get a full refund every single time, which is gonna be rather unfortunate. On this part about leveling, I will personally focus leveling everyone equally up until level 140. From level 141 onwards, I would then push 1 unit to level 160 and 1 unit to level 180 and 1 unit to level 200 respectively for resonance 8, 9, and 10. They are gonna be the key points for your hard journey, giving you a good boost in stats and do your hard journey slightly earlier compared to if you were to raise all 4 units at the same time. But do take note that your resonance materials take a very long time to farm, so prepare for resonance 10 only if the unit have a good journey passive. Namely, if you take a look into this icon, they say a speed or a crit passive at resonance 10. If not, you could simply just bring up your units that you use the most frequently to resonance 10 as well, just for the performance. Now, number 7 is gonna be not doing endgame content. You might be scared thinking they are way too difficult, especially at the start, so you will only do them later after you progress more, but there are a lot of free things to collect purely from just participating, namely the 2 PvE and 2 PvP endgame content. So for your 2 PvE is gonna be your Flashpoint as well as the Interstellar Corridor or the Infinite Tower. For Flashpoint, this is where you can actually farm limited units and arcanas. Simply doing the 60,000 power will give you shots of really good units and cards. For example, Heidi as well as Bunny Claire for Manager Gregory, as well as the God Tier 0 Charlotte Arcana, alongside Welch Ashra for Void Ascendant. For current Pang Kang, I wouldn't really personally do it, so between these 2 stages, if you do not have a Charlotte, I will focus on Void Ascendant, but if you already have a Charlotte, then I will start focusing on Manager Gregory just for more unit dupes. For the Infinite Tower or the Interstellar Corridor, they are gonna be your one-time clear events, but the main reason why you want to push them as much as you can, even though you think you're gonna be taking your time, is number 1, there's a skip button, so it takes basically 0 seconds, and number 2, it unlocks a lot of gold, stars, as well as one-time clear achievements under the events, which will give you a substantial amount of items, namely the early game tier 1 gearboxes, which can help you tremendously in your early game progression. Now for the 2 PvP endgame content, first of which being your Arena PvP, not to be confused with RTA, for your Arena PvP, it is going to be mostly AI at the start, but you can also play with AI matches just to get Arena points. You can then exchange those Arena points for gold cubes and tier 2 gears, which are very important in the endgame. Even if you have no interest in PvP whatsoever, simply by participating can allow you to get a substantial amount of stat buffs when you're going to be progressing through your PvE stages. And lastly, for Guild War, as of right now, it is pretty much gonna be like a raid boss, so just join a guild. You don't have to be competitive. Simply by logging in, check in, and participate in your fights will allow you to get guild shop items, which can also include cubes and leveling materials. If you want to be competitive, there is gonna be a slight increment in rewards, but it is honestly not gonna be too big of a difference, so just simply participate. 8th mistake is going to be using the auto button for your journey if you're gonna be training for the wrong reasons. This is especially true once you unlock medium journeys, which is gonna be the 750 max points. The AI will never ever create a journey better than manual gameplay if you know what you're doing. Once again, check out our journey guide for more information. At the start, when your resonance is very low, with poor skill levels, arcanas, and parents, you would have most likely failed more than once trying to use the AI journey function while trying to make a new save file. Please stick to manual at least in the early game when everything's harder, and only use AI once the units are resonance 5 and above, and I'll personally only use the auto button for parents farming. Again, check out our journey guide for more information, but generally speaking, you will not be running AI at all for the most part. Now for the last 2 tips, I'll be sticking with somewhat related to combat, but frankly there are a lot more things you're probably making a mistake on, so once again join our community, channels, and streams to find out more, because I can't actually fit everything into this single video. So this next tip is pretty much gonna be using your units in the wrong team formation. For example, you are still using Lazy in the back line because Lazy is meant to be a tank, right? She is meant to be played in the front line, not in the back, because Lazy's entire kit requires her tanking damage and self-regenerating based on the attack she actually owns. So many players have made this mistake and think the Lazy is bad on their account, especially with rerollers getting Welch Asher as well as Hilde, leaving Lazy in the back line, which means you are not dealing enough damage with Lazy and you're not tanking enough damage as Lazy at the same time. On that note, since fronts are gonna be at an 80% probability of getting hit, you can play around with the units who want to get hit, like Emily, which reduces the cooldown reduction, or distributing your tanks to the backline if they are taking too much single target damage, like Hilde with preemptive guard or Heidi with 30% damage split to distribute the damage more evenly throughout your entire team, which allows your Welch Ashra to heal up everyone at a much comfortable pace. And now for my very final tip, and that is gonna be when you are brute forcing on elemental disadvantage. Well, at the start, you have no choice but to raise one strong team, which is also why Lacey is such a good unit because of her being a cosmic unit, meaning there's not going to be anyone resistant to her. But later on, the game is designed for you to build multiple elemental teams due to how impactful toughness damage is, and eventually, because of the way the CP is calculated, it will start to reach an exponential level of decrease. The more you progress, the slower you're gonna be progressing at that pace, because it's gonna take you a tremendous amount of resources to continuously level up all the way to level 200 and above. With regards to toughness damage, any unit on the right element will deal +1 toughness on both a basic, skill, and even ultimate. So if you're struggling with a specific checkpoint, try raising another unit because the resources taken to raise one is gonna be exponential. It will get more as you progress, so when you reach a point where it is gonna be even cheaper to raise a new unit to, let's just say for example, Resonance 6 or even Resonance 8 with decent gears and level 366 skills, instead of going all in for one single Resonance 10 unit with level 7, 10, 10 skills. Allocate your resources more diversely in starsavior once your core team is strong enough, and you can get even stronger by having access to more units for specific stages. On that note, some units are designed to counter some bosses. For example, Luna is perfect for Void Marauder, which is the annoying stealth elite since all 3 of her abilities are going to be AoE, or Belle is going to be really good against bosses that have immunity because Belle has a buff strip. With that, I've pretty much come to the end of the top 10 mistakes for beginners that you're probably going to be making. Either you're going to be a free-to-play or expanding player, and hopefully this video can help you along in your starsavior journey, and it helps you to basically break your account a little bit lesser. For any other tips that I've missed out or if you think that's going to be really important, feel free to just leave them down in the comments below and add on to the community. So right off the top of my head before I go off, right, remember to redeem your friend points, remember to do your gauntlet hits, remember to go ahead and claim all of your rewards, remember to use your free refresh every single day because they actually give you one for free, remember to check into your guilds, etc, etc, etc. In the future, the next update I'm going to be cooking up is going to be a gear guide to how are you going to be using and upgrading for specific units, because I think that's going to be the most important function for a game like starsavior, because it's pretty much going to be the end game tied to your gear management, right? So if that we've come to the end, all the best for your gacha pools. Let me know what you guys think. Join Twitch, join YouTube, use code POKE for 10% on gamer subs. All the best for gacha pools. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.